What a performance by Toa Samoa in the Pac Champs of Week 2 against Tonga. Absolutely amazing game. And we're going to break it down for you here right now on Wise Up TV. And we'll look at all the things surrounding that game. A massive, massive game. Massive turnout to Suncorp. 44,000 people. And even with the storm delay, they were able to carry on and fan base stayed in there as well. So massive game, massive output. We'll break down some of my thoughts, predictions behind it, and what actually happened. So if you guys are here for the first time, please hit that like and subscribe for Wise Up TV. But the finished scoreline 34-6 in the end. And we're going to break that down for you right now. Firstly, Tor, congratulations to them. Absolutely brought the energy, the completion rate, all their run meters, 48 tackle breaks, 561 kick meters. They really, really dominated a poor Tongan team, I thought. That if you look at their numbers as well, quite low completion rate. The one that stands out for me, 18 errors, 5 penalties. But really just some really key performances from that Toa Samoa team. The guys that I thought needed to stand up, stood up and showed what they were made of. And that was really good to see off of the back of their performance against the Kiwis, that they carried on and actually delivered and went up another level. And it wasn't the people that you thought it would be, like a Payne Haas. It was actually guys like veteran Junior Paulo, Jeremiah Nanai, who probably hasn't had the greatest season NRL-wise, but actually had a really, really good performance and lifted from what it was last week. Brian To'o, Jerome Luai, Blaze Talangi all did their job. RTS. So we're going to break down some of those numbers first. But let's get to some of the key points I brought up in my preview during last week. And I want to go through each point that I make because I think it's quite relevant. The forwards needed to match Tonga's pack. They more than did that. And it was a really well-balanced performance led by Junior Paulo. And the way they got off and running was absolutely awesome. The energy, everyone gave everything that they needed to. Payne Haas was consistent, but look at his numbers. He only played 44 minutes. So everyone provided the energy that they needed to carry on and match it, more than match it, with this Tonga pack. The execution in the red zone, you saw they got that finished product, specifically the Murray Talangi try, I thought was great execution where they really went at it. And they got the quick tip on from Tango. They got some nice broken play ones where Tango scored the first try. They got some X-Factor performances from a Jeremiah Nanai and a catch out of nowhere, just some of those types of tries. But in terms of destruction in the red zone, much clearer with Junior Paulo providing service at first receiver at their lock position. They actually started to round out a bit more. Consistent service from hooker. This was the game changer for me. Benaya Ioelu was absolutely massive in terms of the tempo around the ruck, the service around the ruck, his own running game building off of what was there. He was attacking the markers. He was getting him behind. He was getting everyone on the front foot. The fact that Gardner made that decision shows that he wants to win, that he had to make the right call, and he did, and it absolutely paid off. So credit to Benaya. CHT did his one, but Benaya's effort that first 40 minutes was huge in really getting that momentum going around the rock. Now he's looking like the potential best hooker in the Pacific Championships with JMK being injured. So something to be very wary of as they prepare for the final. I was expecting a superhuman performance from Payne Haas. That was not needed when you had a Junior Paulo, Simi Sasangi, Jeremiah Nanai, Terrell May came on at the end and did a bit of work there. Josh Papali, they all chipped in, but didn't require Payne to play massive minutes like he did in week 1. He ended up playing about 44, but that was more than enough with everyone playing their roles and helping out. Jazz Tavanga off the bench came and did a number as well. Francis Morlaw, amazing contact. That was probably an area of discussion. Should he have gone for the Simpin? Most likely should have. They missed that. But everyone's energy in their positions did a great job, and I thought it was a really fantastic performance by them. And they continued to build on those combinations. Blaze and Jerome were moving well with RTS involved in the out-the-back plays, working through the middle, working the passes between Paulo and Haas and vice versa. Everyone seemed to be having a good flow. Right and left side attacks were very, very good. So if I'm a Toa Samoa fan, that was probably the best performance in the last, well, since the World Cup, really. And I suppose they had an interview with Gardner and Jerome Luai talking about that and how that they've been building to this, because they've lost 6 straight games since the World Cup. And they asked him about it, and he said, no, we've been building to this. They're really, really happy about their performance. And they should be. They absolutely nailed it. They caught Tonga, and got them good. And the result speaks for itself. They carried on for what they did. Let's just break down quickly some of the key factors. Again, I talked about these guys really. Uelu, 2 tackle breaks, 4 dummy half runs, 20 tackles made. Just a really, really solid performance. Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, far out. I talked about the battle between CNK and him, and last week it kind of felt like there wasn't much difference between them. But that Roger Tuivasa-Sheck right there, 28 for 296, 100 post-contact meters, 6 tackle breaks. Far out. If I'm a Waz fan, I'm probably thinking that's the Roger that we need at the fullback position. Involvement in his passing game. It wasn't just pure yardage. He was chipping in an attack when he needed to, and just providing general energy that team needed to get over Tonga and keep them nullified. His continuous run meter just kept them turning over, that they had to continue to get into that grind, and he kept putting that pressure on their defensive line. Every type of run that he took from out of yardage or in the red zone was absolutely awesome. This man here, Jeremiah Nanai, absolutely one of the best performances of this pack champ so far. The tries that he scored, specifically the solo one where he went in and out on AFB with a little grubber for himself, that is the quality of the player. That is how good he is. He is that much of a quality player that when he's on, he can destroy you. And he did so, and he stood up in those big moments that they needed to, because the possession and then the time they had with the ball and with the position on the field, they needed to score tries. And he nailed those. So, they went into the half, whatever it was, 18 or 20-0. That was massive for them. So, Brian Tor, he had a poor game last week. I thought he really lifted up for this one. His numbers were back up to what they should be. Had some massive carries where you're thinking Tonga could have pinned him down, but he just kind of lifted and went to another gear. So everything that they were good at, I thought they really, really brought that. I add into that the junior Paulo, where he wound back the clock, junior. The passing game from the lock position, the defensive work that he was doing, he was very tidy. Opposed to when he came up to against the Kiwis last week, him and Josh Papali had a lot of issues through the middle where Tapine was rolling through. They tightened all that up. So I'm thinking, wow, he gave one of the best performances. And I think it was built off he was the most capped Samoan player. So he lifted for the occasion. And man, didn't he do a great job, especially that hit on Sonny Luke. Everyone will remember that. That'll be in the highlights package forever. What a great hit, but what a great performance from him. Let's break down now what I think went wrong for Tonga. And I got to go back to what I said from this game. And I know a lot of Tongan fans in the comments probably thinking they had this, they come off their trip back home, they're feeling good about themselves, they had the Versace on the floors, they all kitted out. But these are things that I knew they would have issues with, because I noticed them with Samoa a little bit. The teams, especially in this short form competition, you need to hit that ground running. And you could just tell that they were just flustered. They were not ready. Whether that was the preparations during the week, they were not prepared to go to battle with Samoa, who were right up for it. That was lackluster for performance from them. Defensively, yardage, errors, they were just all over the place. And you could tell that I thought maybe it would take them a half to get into it. They weren't even there after half time. They were really, really struggling. And it goes to show you your preparation has to be important. You have to hit the ground running with intensity to really, really match it at this level, especially with the Toa Samoa and the Kiwis who have prepped well. That was off the mark. Isaiah Katoa needs support. I do go back to this, and I said that he needs support. His performance for himself was poor, was horrible. Probably one of the worst performances I've seen of him in a Tongan shirt. But Iongi at heart 5'8", needs to be questions asked about that. Was it enough? Definitely, there wasn't enough support for him. The structure out of the hooker, getting people in the right spots was disorganized. When they were setting up their attacking sets, they weren't in the right spots. Whether that was Isaiah's organization or their lock or whoever it was, they were very dysfunctional. And he really struggled in that game. So again, the question needs to be asked, is Yongi the right guy at 5'8"? Do you look for Lehigh Hopewadi maybe to go in there? Who else can go and support them? Because he really, really struggled in that spot. Have Tonga been too loyal? I still go back to that. Are they holding on to the Felice Kaufusis? Are they holding on to the Sliva Havilis? And if they carry those players in moving forward, how much is that going to restrict them? Because there is felt like energy-wise that maybe they're just some in that team that just they need to move on. Sifa Talakai, I think he had his interview with Josh Mansour and he had a falling out with Wolf. Talakai's a good player. Why isn't he in this team over Felice Kaufusi? Why isn't he in this team over some other veterans who are a bit long in the tooth right now? Dealing with being favourites. I think they really struggled dealing with they were the hype team, or from my opinion, beating the Kiwis last year and making a Pac Champs final. They should have been coming with energy to think that they were going to be the guys to really kind of own this competition, especially with a key halfback like Isaiah Couture. I don't think they dealt with that very well at all. A lot of questions need to be asked about that, and specifically completion and limiting errors. Again, couldn't complete, struggled out the back end, knock-ons everywhere, errors, 18 errors. A massive, massive letdown for Tonga's fans. And no doubt those fans are faithful. They come rain or shine, they'll always support that. But they didn't hit the ground running. And what is the impact of that? Man, it's massive because you think about it. Samoa, with that points margin, they have secured themselves in the final. They're in a really strong position now where they've got the week off. They don't have any HIAs. Those HIAs, if they had them, can rest up. They can get a little bit more rest in their bodies and really go hard. You're thinking of a Payne Haas, mate, give him a week off with the energy ready to go. He's going to hit the ground running next Sunday. Then you're thinking about Tonga. They have to beat the Kiwis by 18 or 20 points or something like that. So they've got a bit of work to do. They're almost playing a game where they're behind the 8 ball straight away. Do they go and throw the ball around from the first minute to try and get points? At what point do you say, we can't keep grinding it out and we've got to go chase these points, and do the errors come off of that? There's a lot to weigh up for Tonga. With that significant of a loss, the impact of beating the Kiwis, you might go and beat the Kiwis, but if you only beat them by 6 points, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't change anything. So for Tonga, they need a massive performance. Firstly, for me, they need to just lift and get themselves organised. Get themselves there mentally checked in, ready to go to play the Kiwis, to give their fans deservedly a performance that, is a quality performance that they can produce. They're off the boil. I probably associate that to their preparations in Tonga. You could see they got a bit loose and happy over that. I'm not discrediting the amazing thing to be with their communities and families, but just they weren't there. And you got to ask the questions why that is. I question even Christian Wolf with his comments around targeting the NRL, about payments and being equal opportunity. I think he should have just focused on their team and getting their preparation right, because they got ambushed. And I go back to specifically, it was really cool to have the storm delay, because you could see the two different vibes in each camp. You go to the Tonga side, very flat, guys sitting, no one's really talking to each other. AFB's trying to talk to his guys. The halves don't know what they do. They're just, they're in kind of shock. Wolf's trying to get out there and motivate him. Then you go to the other side and towards Samoa. Smiles everywhere. Everyone's talking, jovial. They've got positive vibes. Then their warm-ups, they're really, practicing their tip-ons, getting everything right. And then you go to Tonga side, they're down there lying on the ground, really contemplating life. It just shows you a different vibe. And I wouldn't want to carry that vibe against the Kiwis, who are coming off a good win against Samoa, and they want to carry that on. There's a lot of work for Wolf to tidy up and try and get this team right coming over to New Zealand. I'm sure they will, but it's a big ask if you want to make it into the Pac Champs final. If I'm them, I'm first focusing on just getting a good performance, getting a win. That win can then build for the World Cup. But to get that margin that they need of 18 points, it starts a bit mind games, and the players just got to start forcing the passes a little bit, a few more errors to come in, and the Kiwis might pounce on that. Now, I'm not saying the Kiwis are perfect either. I'm not a major fan of Stacey Jones. They might really bomb it. They might choke the opportunity, and Tonga might actually win by 18 to 20. I'm not saying that's not out of the realms. But if I'm Tonga, I've got to really make up from this lost time and lost opportunity. Massive missed opportunity, but to end this video, I want to give a massive congrats to Toa Samoa. I predicted that based off reputation and what Tonga did last year, I thought they were going to come and hit the ground running and they'll win 28 to 22. What a surprise that was, 34 to 6. It was built off just a really solid performance from everyone. Brian To'o, RTS, D-Mera, the carries they had really lifted the team. Then you got your halves and Luai who kicked a really good game. Blaze Talangi was really, really good in terms of sniping runs, being active. Like I said, Jeremiah Nanai was really X Factor, star of the show. Simi Sasangi on the other side was just consistent with his tackling and his yardage work. Payne did his job. Terrell came on and did a nice bit of clean work. And that just mentality that they brought was absolutely perfect. So for them, congratulations. You've sealed yourself. You're actually in that strong position now. Say the Kiwis win next week. They might have a few HIAs, they might have a few injuries. They can now rest and prepare. So good. Congratulations to Toa Samoa who are ready for that grand final. Tomorrow we're going to do the preview once that team list drops for Tonga and the Kiwis. Tonga, do they change it up in the halves? Iongi did not fit, in my opinion, with his Isaiah Katoa. Do you go with a Lehigh Hopewadi or something a little bit different, where you push Iongi back into the fullback position, which is his strength, and you can still get him on the out-the-back shapes as a running threat with a Kohler and those guys on that side. Paul Alamoti, where does he fit in this? He was the form player in the NRL finals. Is Wolf again going to his favourites, staying loyal? But maybe he needs to look at some changes in those positions as well. That forward pack needs a lot of work. Just looked all over the shop, not tidy enough. I thought Dimitrik and that came on and stabilised for a bit, but there was some concerns around the middle for sure. I understand the Utoi Kamanu situation. Agree, Molo should have gone and be Sinbin. RTS, even the chip and chase. My argument, that should have been a Sinbin as well. He did lean into it. Samoa got a few favourable calls, but at the end of the day, if I'm Tonga, there's a lot to be sorted out in that middle. The hooking position, Saliva Havili, Sonny Luke wasn't very good either. So a lot of questions need to be asked, but we'll come back tomorrow night with a preview against the Tonga and the Kiwis. But congratulations again to Toa Samoa. You're in the way to the final and with a very high chance of winning it. So please hit that like and subscribe to Wise Up TV, and we'll catch you tomorrow night for our preview of the squads for Tonga and the Kiwis. Peace.